Alright, so we're going to be playing around with Lake Tanganyika today. Now I set this tank up a little over 3 months ago. It's matured in real nicely. We've got a lot of nice algae growth on there. The fish are growing a little bit, eating. But just something about it just isn't quite complete to me yet. So we're going to attempt to fix that today with some plants and rearranging. So now we're going to rearrange the hardscape in this tank. Initially I just kind of threw everything in there to kind of let it grow in and all that fun stuff. And as you can see, a ton of algae is growing on the rocks, which is exactly what I want. That shows that nitrates are being absorbed and we got a good ecosystem going on in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move both pieces of this large holy rock, or whatever you want to call it, to one side of it. And I'm going to start tapering off with the black rock off to the left side of the tank. That's the look I want to go for. It kind of makes the tank look a little longer than it actually is. So I think that should look pretty good. Unfortunately, you can see I'm kicking up a lot of debris and detritus in there, but that's alright. We're going to do a water change after all this is said and done. Okay, so it's cleared up a little bit, so let's see what plants we're going to be adding. I got a whole bunch of these large Anubias that were in the axolotl den. They're just a little too busy in there, so I figured, you know what, these would be perfect for the Tanganyikans. So we got a bunch of these. And I also picked up a few pots of dwarf Sagittaria. I really wanted to get jungle vows, because I know they would do well in here, but they didn't have them, so I figured, you know what, the closest thing are these guys. So a little bit of an experiment, but I think it'll at least look good if they survive for a little bit. So let's get to it. Alright, so now we're going to start planting this tank. Initially what I wanted to get was some sort of Vallisneria, but they didn't have any, but they had dwarf Sagittaria, which reproduces the same way by shooting out runners. So we're going to give this a shot. I ended up having 4 individual plants out of the 2 pots that I bought, so that should do well. Now the big thing is planning on where to put them where the cichlids aren't going to really dig. So I'm kind of putting them in a spot where I have rocks buried alongside of them so they don't get uprooted. Hopefully anyway. Alright, now we're going to attach some of these Anubias from the axolotl den. I'm pretty much just going to glue and zip tie them to rocks, and that's all they really need. The roots, they'll dig into the substrate as they grow and as they feel they need to. But they're big water column feeders, and there's obviously a lot of nutrients in the water because they're cichlids, they're messy eaters. Alright, so let's add the shells. Now, usually when someone's setting up a Tanganyikan tank and they're going to do shells, they usually just do one shell. I know going online buying a whole bunch of like escargot shells is, you know, the most popular way I've seen people add shells to their tanks. I didn't do that. Maybe I will down the road to add more, but I kind of like having a whole bunch of different types of shells. It's just the way I like to do it. So I went to a local craft store, Michael's, I'm sure there's one around you or whatever, and gave them a good rinse off and just kind of spread them around in there. Those, whether the Le Lupi use them or not, I'm not sure. They're a little on the bigger side for these shells, but who knows? Either way, it's good for the buffering action of it because it's going to make the water harder, which the cichlids like, and it just looks good in my opinion. Alright, so it's been a few weeks since I initially planted and set this, rescaped this tank and all that. And as you can see, the dwarf Sagittarius is doing really well. It's shooting up runners. I got a couple more and threw them in there. So they're doing well. The placement of them has worked very well so far. They haven't uprooted or anything like that. The cichlids haven't messed with them. The Anubias looks a little beat up, but I did trim a bunch of the leaves off, and as you can see, there is some new growth on them. So considering over 2-3 weeks, that's pretty good for the Anubias to have brand new leaves on it like that. Now I did get my hand on some Vallisneria, so I planted one in each corner. So they're acclimating a little bit still to the parameters of this tank, but I anticipate they should do well also. Now a nice side note, which I was hoping would happen, is the cichlids are a lot less shy. They aren't always hiding from me, they're out and about in the plants. So it's just a much more natural looking tank. And it's just cool to have a planted cichlid tank. So I hope you enjoyed this one. We'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and we'll see you.